Just a reporter.
Just a reporter.
Right.
But
I was not officially a photographer.
right.
I had purchased my own speed graphic, and because I worked odd hours as a police reporter, working nights, late evening, and so forth. I bought my own camera. I had been a amateur photographer since I was a kid, and so I spent some of my war bonds and bought a.
So how old would you be then?
I was 21.
21.
Yes.
And would you say that you were an ambitious reporter?
No, I was just working my way through college.
For what specific aim? What was your sort of career ambitions at that time?
My first degree was in journalism, and after I was working there, I was planning to follow that up. And I graduated I started to college in the fall of 1942, right after I was a senior in high school when Pearl Harbor happened, in December of 41. And then I finished the next summer and started into college in September. And I was a year ahead of my colleagues, and I would have probably stayed over and gone another year to high school, except when the war started. Then there was the urgency for everyone to get as much education as possible.
What the Fort Worth Star-Telegram? What kind of circulation would that have had in those days?
It was the largest newspaper in the South. That was its.
In the south of Texas.
No, the south of the United States.
Really?
Yes. It was a morning, evening, and Sunday, and the combined circulation was the largest in the South. Now, I don't know how it compares today. Probably the Dallas Morning News is larger now. But it was just a morning paper. The Dallas News was a morning paper. We had a morning, afternoon, and Sunday. You see, morning, evening, and Sunday, they called it. So the combined circulation made it the largest.
So you were in the offices, were you, when you were told to get over to the base?
And what triggered that was this flash message that came from the Associated Press saying they were flying this flying saucer from Roswell to Fort Worth.
Prior to that, had you any indication whatsoever that anything untoward had occurred at Roswell? Had there been any rumours, on the media grapevine?
No, this was except
this
that
came right out of the blue.
Yes, they were looking for, as I said, the 2 weeks preceding, there was a front page article every day in the paper about the flying saucer incident, and people were looking, and they were casting about, and they were reporting that they had found one on the beach.
When we talk about the flying saucer incident, for the record, we're referring to the Kenneth Arnold incident.
That would have triggered
all of the media hype and the public attention.
Yes.
So you were familiar in some respects with what had taken place in Washington State.
Yes, that was.
You received this flash by the Press Association. How far would the base have been from the offices of the fort?
It's within a half hour.
A half hour. And did you drive out there?
Yes.
What was your car? This is for the car enthusiasts. Was it a Buick?
I had a brand new 1947 Ford Club Coupe.
Yeah.
With that I paid $15.94.21 for American, and with including a signal seeker radio and seat covers. What else do you want to know?
Okay.
But I was very proud of that car, and I got it through the Star-Telegram. In 1947, I'd been on waiting lists. See, I came home from the war at the end of 45, and I had sold my car when I went in service, and so I was riding in cabs, and fortunately our newspaper owner also owned the Yellow Cab Company, so that made it easy to get about. But I wanted my own car, and I'd been on waiting lists. You signed up at different places and would put down a deposit and wait for a car.
Who was your immediate boss or your supervisor?
His name was Cullum Green, was my city editor, and he's the one that came over and said, "Bond, you have your camera?" Because, see, I was not normal. And, yeah, I said, "It's out in the car." I kept it in the trunk of the car. And he said, "Well, go out to General Ramey's office, and they're bringing in a flying saucer."
And did you say what?
No, because this was everybody was expecting that sooner or later somebody would come up with one if they're out there, and now they've captured one and they're bringing it to, and that was a logical thing because this was the headquarters of the Air Force.
But here you are, you're in your vehicle, you've got a 30-minute drive or so to the base, you've been sent by the city editor, you're 22 years of age. 21 years of age, and you're on the brink of potentially the most important news announcement or discovery on the history of the planet. I mean,
yeah, that didn't compute. That was not. Okay. It was not that. And I've been.
This is the thing you say. I mean, what was going through your mind on that journey from your newspaper desk to Fort Worth?
I don't have.
Did you have any kind of idea as to what you might expect? Were you going to be taken to a hangar? Were you going to meet anybody? Were you going to see anything? What was going through your mind?
I had been involved in some airplane crashes before, and in every case, in the past, they had reassembled these in hangars. That was kind of the MO as it is today. That's what you, with the Pan Am crash and so forth, they always seem to find an empty hangar somewhere and reconstruct it to try to find out what happened. That was what I would have expected, and I still remember. I remember only a few incidents. You know, our memory, I think, could be described as being in sound bites.
Sure.
That is what we just remember, little snippets of a thing. But there are the few snippets that I have of that day.
So you arrive at the base.
Right.
Are you not then surprised to be taken instead of a hangar or an area where, like you say, you might expect to see something that has been assembled from the wreckage and the like, but instead to a carpeted offices?
That's correct. That did not make sense. Why would, and it doesn't to this moment.
You've literally entered this room, you've seen the carpet. What was it about that room that you looked at? What happened next, basically?
I remember my consternation, the fact that there was this junk piled on the floor, not very photographic, photogenic at all. And now I've got to, you know, this is one of my really, I guess, first assignments. I had only had the camera for a month or two. And so this was really one of the first times that I had been assigned to do that. Otherwise, I had gone like covering a speaking engagement or something, and you take a headshot of the speaker, that kind of a thing, or a handshake, kind of a picture of two people, which you get a lot of on a newspaper. And here was the first time that it was really a spot news assignment. And it was so, I can remember being disappointed and frustrated because it was so unphotogenic.
Did you say that to anybody who might have been with you in the room at that time when you first went in?
No, I think that was my own private thought.
Was there anybody else in there? Were you
I don't recall. I recall Colonel DeBose.
Prior to General Ramey arriving.
Right. The Colonel DeBose met me, and he was expecting the general momentarily, and he went off to look for him. I don't have a clear recollection of Marcel at all. That's just not a part of it.
Were there any MPs there?
No, there was no security. There was no more than there is in this room at this moment. It was just, you just go in and you wait, and the general will be here in a minute.
And no other photojournalists with you at that moment?
None. I do not recall. Another time, I worked 5 years on the Star Telegram with the interruption for the war. I do not recall another instance where they sent over the wire photo equipment to transmit. So that was just a very extraordinary situation for us too. So we received but didn't transmit.
Yeah. So you've had your first look inside this room.
Right.
Were any of these parcels that you described in meat wrapping paper, were any open at that point?
Yes, there was. What we see in the pictures, the large part of the paper was already unwrapped, and those large sections were there but not laid out. I arranged them to try to pose a picture. It was just kind of piled up. It would be like, as I remember, putting a kite together. When you would buy a kite, and the sticks in it would be in a rolled up together. It was kind of like that. Then you lay it, you know, how you unwrap a kite with the sticks. and to make it so it will fly. And it was kind of that drill.
Were you particularly careful how you handled that debris at all?
No.
This was simply a case of, I've got to take a photo of this, let's do it.
And try to make something photogenic out of it.
Yeah.
And like it, because it was all blackened, burned looking stuff, and there was not much contrast as the pictures show.
Yeah, and also it smelled.
It was
that
smelly.
the smell that was there as soon as you entered the room?
Yes, it was, and that's what struck me as unusual. Why that this smelly junk would be piled on the general's carpet. That was one of the few recollections that I have that didn't make sense. There's no one to discuss this with. There were no other media people. I was just there, and it was, we were not expecting, I was not sent there as a reporter. And Phil Klass has beat me over the head with this again and again and again, saying, surely you were aware, the question you said a while ago, surely you were aware of the importance of this moment. And this was, no, it was not that at all.
This was a photo assignment.
It was a get out there, and
deadline
it was the time was the urgency. We're on the East Coast deadline. You know, get out there, get it, get back here there, and let's get this. So it was the urgency of the situation.
Did Colonel DuBose come in with General Ramey?
Yes.
They both came in together.
The general came in first.
Did he acknowledge you at all?
I knew him because I was the military reporter, and I had seen him. I'd been there, had taken his picture just a few weeks before when General McMullen was there, his boss, and Ramey had just taken over the command from McMullen. McMullen had moved on up the tape and had gone to Washington. They had just formed up the 8th Air Force with McMullen in command and Ramey as his deputy. And then McMullen was reassigned to Washington, and Ramey took over just a few weeks before that. And I remember covering a part of that.
Did Ramey come in with, was there anybody else that came in with Ramey, his adjutant or any sidekicks at all?
Yes, DuBose was his chief of staff.
Apart from DuBose, I was basically meaning.
And if there are any others, I don't recall them. And he could have, you know.
Were there any words exchanged at all?
The only thing I recall was asking him, you know, what is this? And he kind of shrugged and said, damned if I know, or something like that.
What was it that led to this remarkable statement, if you like, or response from the general, or the brigadier, I beg your pardon, in respect of wreckage? Can we look at that?
Yes,
what led to this?
That was just an incidental statement when I said, did you see the wreckage? Because he was the commanding general at Wright Pat along with his career. I said, did you ever see it? Because they talk about it being in Hangar 18 or whatever it is. And I said, and he corrected me and said, Wreckages. And I said, oh, more than one? He said, yes, we had more than one there. And that was surprising to me. I didn't know about that. But I've since read about confirmation of that from other sources. That Roswell is just one of several that they've captured along the way.